I've been speaking to founders recently, and I started using this image of marketing as archaeology. So we're going to start this video with my representation of the world's most famous archaeologist, Indiana Jones. So let me just show you what I've been talking about. So this is kind of a representation of a marketing team or a marketing department over time, right? So it's kind of this stratified layers of different people coming into a startup marketing team. So here you might have, the bones of a good idea. There's a joke here about first and last touch attribution. Maybe this is the head of marketing, if you will. Um, so each of these arrows basically corresponds to sort of an effort or a hire made by an early stage startup when it comes to marketing. So let's kind of put some names to these arrows. So in the beginning you might have or you might be the founder. So you kind of do some of the groundwork. I'm going to use a lot of kind of earthy terminology in this video. So you're up here or you could be down here. But let's say you're up here, you've put some of the work in, you might have sent some emails, you've tried to set up HubSpot, you've done some social. Um, you then realize that you can't do everything yourself. So maybe you hire a freelancer who comes in 1 day a week. Let's put them here. So they did some good work. You then realize that there was more potential for your startup in terms of marketing. So you think what we need, always what we need is ads. Ads are going to save us. So you hire a performance manager and they come in and they do some good work. So they might set up your Google ads, your LinkedIn ads, retargeting, display, stuff like that. So they've done a big chunk of work here. And then you get some funding. Congratulations. So you think what we need to do is hire a bunch of junior people to do all the kind of the content and the social and the emails and stuff like that. So you bring in lots of post-funding junior hires, and they also do a really good job. Let's just assume everyone's doing a great job, right? So they do a good job. And then you think, okay, I've got lots of people now. So I've got the performance manager, I've got the 1 day a week freelancer. Maybe you've let them go, maybe you've kept them, or you've made them a full-time member, and you've got some post-funding junior hires. So you can't now manage this team. So what do you need? You need a head of marketing. Ooh, this will solve stuff. So you get a head of marketing. And let's be kind to the head of marketing. So this head of marketing is a rare breed. So they actually execute stuff. So they did a lot of stuff in this section here. And then the average tenure, as far as I can remember, of a head of marketing is like 16 months or something. So we can actually attach a time range here or a date range. So this is 16 months of head of marketing, and the head of marketing is like, oh, we have a big potential with events or something or PPC. So let's hire an agency for 20K a month. And the agency comes in and they do this here. This isn't a reflection on agencies, it's just the one that's left. So here's what we can see. Here's the kind of the early stage marketing efforts for a startup. What we've got here then is layer upon layer of good intentions, good work, effort. But what we also have is layer upon layer of complexity, of different ways of executing, of naming conventions, of setting up tracking, of tone of voice on social media, lead gen, different ICPs, different targets. The problem you have with this is that there is no processes, no systematization. It's just basically a mess. And what happens is you start to accept things like controlled chaos. So startups love talking about controlled chaos, especially in their marketing teams. But controlled chaos, in my opinion, is junk, because what controlled chaos leads to are a range of problems, some of which we're going to have a look at. So flip-flopping. So this is the classic thing in startups where we have one idea, we try it, we then try another idea. Often this is called testing, but what really it is it's not giving a marketing campaign the time and space it needs to breathe, to acquire data, to acquire information and learnings for the team to then kind of iterate or change. What happens is you launch a campaign, you have to check in within 2 weeks and say how many leads it's generated, or contacts is what they actually are. Or is there any revenue attribution or anything like that? And when you say no to all of those because it's been 2 weeks and there's a public holiday in the middle of that, you panic and you change. So you pivot, you launch a new campaign, you cancel that campaign, you change budgets, you change targeting, and then guess what? The next one kind of has the same result. This leads to just endless false starts. So you might say, okay, we're going to concentrate on SEO. You might be 6 months late in that, but you'll say, right, SEO is going to do it. Okay, so we spent this huge budget on PPC. What we need to show investors is sustainable growth. So SEO will fix it, right? So then we'll start SEO and we'll do that for 3 months and we'll hire the agency to do 4 blog posts a month, and each blog post costs us 2K. And then we'll be like, okay, so in 3 months, why aren't we ranking, guys? Like, where's the ranking? Well, it takes 6 to 12 months. Well, that's too long. So let's stop that and start something else. Let's go back to ads, right? So maybe we've let the freelancer go or the performance manager go. Let's get another performance manager to come in and do things, completely differently and add another layer of complexity and legacy issues and stuff. Then you might try some Hail Marys because you've got a funding round coming up, or the head of marketing has been told that they have to do something, or they're going to be let go. So they'll say, okay, let's stop everything that we're doing. Let's stop the SEO. Let's let PPC just switch itself off and cut the budgets, and we'll do a big ticket webinar. We'll get someone in to come and impress our email list, and we'll send it out to all of our sales prospects. And then you have this webinar, and guess what? Nobody becomes a customer. But in the meantime, you've abandoned and sacrificed all of your other mid to long term efforts. One of the main things you'll find when you kind of take this kind of chaotic or controlled chaos approach is that you find it super difficult to track anything or attribute anything. Now, tracking and attribution isn't everything in marketing, but it is still important. And when you have lots of people coming in and creating systems that they understand, but nobody else does, you will find tracking is always affected by this. So you might not be able to set tracking up. You might have lots of different conversion tracking in your Google ads, for example. You might have lots of conversions created on LinkedIn, as in conversion types, but none of them are used correctly. The code and the pixels and the tags aren't used correctly. Google Tag Manager is a mess. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? And that often is the bedfellow or the cousin of an incomprehensible CRM. So you will have people come in and they will build HubSpot around their own needs, right? So workflows will only be comprehensible to the person that built it. The properties will only be comprehensible to the person that built it. So nobody can come in from outside of that person or even that team or whatever and use HubSpot. It's also used radically differently by marketing as it is to sales. And then, God forbid, if a leadership or a CEO wants to come in and take a look, they will have to have somebody go through it with them because there is no intuitive setup. There is no universal baseline when it comes to using properties or forms or contact records or anything like that. To keep the kind of earthy metaphor going, what you've done here is you've dug yourself a big hole. What do we put into the hole? We put in lots of good stuff, unfortunately. So we put in performance in lots of senses of that word. So performance will drop, right? So if you don't have that baseline, that foundation in your marketing, how can anything perform correctly? So you'll come back and you'll expect results as the founder naturally, but there's no reporting either because reporting is probably as bad as the tracking. So there will be no performance. You will have missed opportunities. Like literally, you will have missed opportunities. Um, Founders spend so much time making marketing work rather than marketing working. I don't think a founder would ever spend as much time trying to make a product team or a sales team work as they do with a marketing team. Obviously, there are improvements you can make in product and in sales, but I've never seen so much attention be given to a team by a founder as marketing trying to make it work, right? You can spend a year trying to make marketing work when marketing should have been working for your company in that year, or at least 6 months, right? 6 months to set it up, and then it needs to be working. You don't need to have this constant input into that team. Doing it the chaotic way kills morale. It kills the morale of your marketing team. They never have any wins. They never know what their goals are. The change in focus, the change in priority, it's detrimental to morale and therefore to performance. you're wasting time, literally. So you're wasting time in the usual sense, but you're also wasting the lifetime of your startup. So, if you only have a couple of years of funding or 6 months of funding and runway, you're wasting that time. If there's an end date to your startup and you're spending 8, 10, 12 months trying to figure out HubSpot, it is just a waste of the startup's lifetime. Obviously you're spending tons of money. You're not giving Google Ads time to collect enough data so that you can't give good bids. So you're wasting money because you're paying, you know, €8, $8, £8 a click or something when you could have been spending 80 pence or 80 cents or whatever. You're wasting money on the recruitment, the hiring, the firing, the learning curve period of new hires in marketing. Um, and then you're leaving a sour taste, represented by this lemon, in everybody's mouth. So what happens in a wider company is that marketing gets this really, really bad reputation. So if you go to any of your sales or your product or your HR team, maybe during Friday beers when everybody's feeling a little bit looser, and say to them, what do you think of marketing? I guarantee you, people will say, I don't really know what they do. Like, what do they do? Is it just blog posts? Like, is it social? Because there will be an assumption in your team that marketing is just a waste of time and a waste of money. So my archaeological dig kind of has revealed that controlled chaos leads to a whole host of problems. And what you need to do is invest in kind of a process driven, systematized um, kind of setup and launch of your marketing, whether that is if you're very early stage and you haven't done any marketing before, it's the best time to do things correctly, to get people to come in that have done this before, to set up, to create processes and systems. Or if you're already kind of, 6 months, a year, 2 years down the line, and you've got this kind of mess, still having a team come in and kind of standardize what you do, systematize what you do, and then evangelize that out to the company, and create processes and systems that are intuitive and universal, and then hand them over to internal stakeholders or to you as the founder, and then leave and maybe be available as and when. But you've created a process that everybody can just slip into rather than them coming in and being like, I don't understand this because it's a mess. So I'm just going to create my own on top of it and just compound the disorder and the chaos. So yeah, it's goodbye from me and it's goodbye from Emoji Indie.